Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen,
There you
forgive
go.
me. There you go. I'm Ken McClinton, host of the Exceptional Conservative Show. Welcome back. We have with us tonight Miss Cynthia Cole. Cynthia Cole is chair of King County Republican Party. That is the area that deals with Bellevue, Washington, Seattle, Washington. She's here tonight because her voice has been silenced in the mainstream media, including Fox, in terms of what's happening in Seattle. And it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to get the GOP opinion about what's happening and the solutions for the city of Seattle. First and foremost, Ms. Cole, you have been serving as the chair of the King County Republican Party, and many people have judged the area as one that's destitute, one that's being mobbed, one that's weak. We've watched Carmen Best on television and the mayor on television. They seem to relinquish all authority to the mob. And many people in America feel that there is a fight with the President of the United States on one side and the left on the other side, and there's no other voice. And I'm glad that you're here tonight because we want to know exactly how did the CHOP situation begin and why has your voice been silenced over that particular period of time?
Okay, so it didn't just happen just in
Yeah.
one day. Yet the city of Seattle has they have one avowed socialist who got on their city council. Is a huge that's the woman they call Sawant, and she is a Marxist socialist. And when she got on the council, I, for lack of a better term, she started bullying the rest of the council to do her bidding and to basically void out the rule of law and to do what socialists and Marxists always do, which is to take away people's power, take away people's rights, take away people's property, and only the few and the elite end up having the power and the say so and all this. So it's been a gradual change. In 2019, as chair, I actually ran 5 amazing good candidates for city council in Seattle because they have council districts, and our candidates did not win because the company Amazon that could put their names on their brochure that went out to all these homes decided to put some lesser evils on they saw all of my candidates as Republican, and they said, no, we can't put your people on our brochure, and they sent out these other names, but most of them were no better than what was already in the city council, so they ended up with the same thing. And what people don't understand is city council is a nonpartisan race. And two of my 5 candidates were actually Democrats. They had voted for Hillary during the presidential primary in 2016, yet they were Democrats, not socialists. I can work with a Democrat because they at least love our country and love the rule of law, and they want our country to be successful. I can't work with socialist Marxists because they just want to burn it all down. They want to destroy. And so Seattle ended up voting back in the people who want to destroy their livelihood, let people live in undignified situations, campers, tents on the street, all throughout their city. And they make Seattle just a less than desirable place to be. I used to go to Seattle all the time. And so it didn't happen overnight, yet I don't know what's going to have to happen to change. So if I were, I got to tell President Trump that King County Republicans love him.
Okay.
I worked in 2016, he had a big rally in Everett. I was one of the volunteers, and I wasn't sure who I was going to vote for until I saw him in person. And then he completely won me over, and I realized, okay, he's not status quo. He's going to drain the swamp because he's not in the swamp. He's not one of them. And I was really happy because too many people get into government and stay there because they want the power and they want the wealth that comes along with it. This man was patriotic, loves our country, loves God. Only president I've seen that's been, you know, pro-life. I mean, when he was debating Hillary and they did the pro-life thing, Not, he didn't just stand there at the podium. He actually walked forward, which emphasized what he was saying. And I'm pro-life, and he's been pro-life. To me, that is a seminal issue in this country. And then all these Black Lives Matter people, they're Marxists. They don't care about black babies. They will abort a black baby as soon as they'd rather abort a black baby than anything. And if they really, really loved Black lives, why are they throwing their babies out? It just blows me away.
Exactly.
And so one of the things, if he came here, I would say, obviously, you got to get CHOP cleaned out. Yet we've got a lot of community organizations in the Seattle area that actually recognize the problem, and they're not government agencies. The government agencies are the problem. The city of Seattle has spent, like $10,000 a year on each homeless person, and they're still living on the streets.
Wow.
That's stupid. That's really a waste of your money. They spent millions. Then we've got all these Christian organizations, and some of them aren't Christian, like Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club in King County has a program called Safe Passages. And what they do is they bring community organizers together, and they work to lessen community tension. And they work with gang people. They work with domestic violence. They work with problems that really shouldn't be first shot into the justice system. Let's see if we can talk some sense into people and get them to sit down and talk about their issues. And one of the things I do is I always believe that questions open, statements closed. And I really like when I'm dealing with somebody who's got an issue with me or with whatever, I always ask a lot of questions. And I said, so even when I go door to door and ask people to vote for my candidate, and I ask them, what about questions? So what about this appeals to you? Or what about this candidate is rubbing you the wrong way? And I get them to talk, because a lot of times people don't really think about their stand on things, and they're listening to the fairy tales on mainstream media.
Yeah.
I only look at the local news if I want to see what kind of garbage are they trying to force feed people now, because then I know what I'm dealing with when I go talk to people. But I can tell you, I listened to Judge Jeanine when she talked about the murder of George Floyd. And I didn't really understand all the details till I heard her give her monologue on this. And my husband and I are both in tears by the time she was done. It was murder, and it was horrendous. And she had all the details, and she was not afraid to talk about them in graphic detail on her show. And everybody should hear that. And I don't say that so that somebody would want to go after the police. This one man was definitely evil. I don't know what was going on or why he did this, but it was wrong. Yet in Seattle, we actually need more funding for police, because if the police had more numbers and weren't just always on edge having to combat crime, they could be in the communities, in the neighborhoods, building relationships with these young gangbangers before they commit a life of crime and get involved in the drugs and get involved in this and that. Because a lot of these boys, they don't have fathers. Exactly. What if police officers were in their community being the father figure they need? How would that change things? So we need more funding for community organizations like Safe Passages, and we need more funding for our police so they can be there and be the guardians they want to be and be the people in the community that bring sanity and safety. Right now, Capitol Hill has no safety.
Chair Cole,
how's that?
There are those who are sitting at home, and it's very easy when you can sit at home and with your little snuggle bunny shoes on, and they're saying, well, this is exactly what you all voted for. You all voted for Marxists to take control of your city. You voted for CHOP. You voted for Chaz. This is exactly what you wanted. Why are you all not, ecstatic and happy about the results?
Reality hit. And then they see what it really means. They bought the bill of goods, and they didn't listen to what we were saying. And I don't want to throw them out. I still think Seattle has a chance, because there are a lot of conservatives living in Seattle, and they are, they don't like what's happening to their city. And they email me all the time. And during the protests before they took over the East Precinct, I had people from Seattle who were Republicans saying, do something.
Exactly.
And I said, okay, sure, yeah, I'm in my PJs. I'm a white woman who's past retirement age, and yeah, I'm going to come right on down there. You betcha by golly. So, you know, we're doing what we can, and I got to tell you, I've got a lot of really good candidates who would make a difference if we can get them elected. And Seattle is not lost yet. Seattle needs a lot of help, and people have got to stop listening to when they all listen to the same thing over and over again. What's it called? The word
Insanity.
slipped me. Well, it's insanity, and they're listening to the same stuff, and they just assume it's right. No, you got to dare to ask questions, and that's usually what I do with people. Is I ask questions,
How
and
many
then I can
people?
get a better conversation with them.
How many people are in the makeup of that CHOP or Capitol Hill autonomous zone? Uh, how many? We're looking at in terms of numbers. How long will they be there? The expectation, and why isn't the mayor doing more force to get rid of that particular grouping?
If they told the chief of police clean it up, it'd be cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the mayor. And so now that the socialists on the city council has doxed her, because the mayor used to be a federal prosecutor. This is what really surprises me. She
Wow.
used to be a federal prosecutor. She should know better. But her home address got released to the mobs, and they all went there to her house and protested. He has a address, and this it tells you socialist Marxists don't care about the rule of law. And this gal who's on the city council revealed her address, took all the protesters there, and that was a direct threat to the life of the mayor and her family. And that same city council socialist Marxist let a bunch of protesters into City Hall because she had the key. And again, this is during COVID, and all these people are smooshed together, and they're wondering why the state of Washington has increased numbers of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yet when they do the contact tracing, they're not allowed to ask if they were in a protest.
Wow.
Wonder why.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Now we're talking six city blocks,
Yeah.
in the Capitol Hill region. If you could describe for the American people, because we've only seen the police side in most of the pictures that we have
Hmm.
of that particular zone. So a lot of people say when they're looking at the camera and saying, well, it's a police area and maybe a little park area. Uh, but 6 blocks, what do those blocks include?
Oh, they include a bookstore. They include bars. They include coffee shops. They include apartments. People's homes. There's people actually live there in homes that they've lived in for ages. They now have graffiti all over them because the CHOP people went to their homes, knocked on the door, and demanded food. And if you didn't have food to give them, you had to order takeout and have it delivered to them, or they
Wow.
would graffiti your house. And they pooped in their yards and dropped their needles in their yards. And most of these people seem to be living in tents in the park. They don't live in Capitol Hill. They've invaded Capitol Hill. And so these are not people who own property there. They really don't care about what they leave behind, because they'll eventually leave and they'll go back to whatever mommy's basement they were living in before, but they don't care. And the people that have lived there for decades, they care. And they're seeing their community that they've loved for all these years just ruined. And what's really scary is they demanded the West Precinct also. They got the East Precinct,
Whoa.
but what people don't realize is the West Precinct is where the 911 center is. And if they had gotten and taken over the West Precinct, because the police had started to take all their papers and files out of the West Precinct, they had started to evacuate the West Precinct. And that would have meant 911 would have gone down the tubes. 911 in
Wow.
that area of Seattle, there'd have been no 911.
That
And
is breaking
somehow that got
news.
stopped. Say
That
what?
is that is literally breaking news. No one's heard that
Of
east
course not.
east of Seattle. And so what we've seen, and I have a lot of criticisms of Carmen Best, and I've had a lot of police who have come on, law enforcement that have come on, who have basically stated, She should have never surrendered
Yeah.
that police station, just merely for the symbolic nature of it, but certainly not for the sake of the safety of the community. Now she looks very weak, but she said
Yeah. Oh, guess
earlier
what else?
today.
Here's what you don't know. Here's what you don't know.
Okay.
It was last week. The Seattle City Council banned the police from using all non-lethal weapons. No tear gas. None of these things that are allowed to be used. The only thing they have left to use are guns and bullets.
Oh my God! And
So
of
if
course,
they're being threatened by a crowd, they can't use tear gas or mace. They only can use their weapons with their bullets.
jeez,
How's that for
Americans.
stupid?
That's really stupid. And Americans are sitting back and they're saying to themselves at this particular juncture, oh my God! It seems to be a very destitute situation for the people of
Mm-hmm.
Seattle. There seems to be only one way to clean all this up, and that requires the National Guard. Why have
Yeah.
the mayor and the governor not asked for the National Guard to come in and clean out the entire area?
My personal opinion is they want the president to look bad, and they're doing anything they can to keep him from getting reelected. And see, he won't win Washington State probably, no matter what he does. So
Hmm.
if I were the president, I'd go in and clean it up. And I'm sure his advisors are telling him, what would be the best thing to do. But I know our governor he's weak, and he's pandering to, like I said, comprehensive sexuality education. He followed the 59, not the 10,000. This is what he always does. And he follows the special interests. We had a group working on reopening the state with COVID. We had two senators, two Republican senators, two Democrat senators, two Republican House, two Democrat House, in our state House and Senate working together. He fired that group and put together a committee of 27 people most of whom were his donors.
Hmm.
And it's been a joke ever since.
Listen, two blacks have been killed in the past 2 weeks
Yes.
in that autonomous zone. I wanted to get the GOP opinion on that particular matter because it seems, because you've been silenced by the media, that there's an uncaring appeal.
Right.
Your thoughts, your testament.
Sure. Those people would be alive today if they hadn't been in the chop zone where it was just unruly. And people who were part of the mob felt they could get away with it because there's no police there. And the police are prohibited from coming in. And the 911 people, the paramedics can't go in because they aren't allowed to go into an area where they could possibly be shot. And so those black men who died, there was a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old. I really believe they'd still be alive if they weren't in a situation where somebody knew they could come in and get away with it. Because the second shooting where the 14-year-old got shot also, the evidence has all been destroyed. And so
Yes.
you may think you can do vigilante justice and crime, yet you really can't because you don't know how to collect the evidence. You can't make the case in court. Police do these things. There's a real reason why we have a uniformed police force, because to get through our justice system, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to collect evidence. You have to do it by the book, or people get off scot-free. Well, these people who shot these weapons and killed these people knew they could get away with murder, literally get away with murder. And if they hadn't all been congregated in this big mob and chop, I think these young men would still be alive. It's a shame.
Carmen Bess is the police chief, and she's negotiating apparently with CHOP to get the
Oh,
district back. Your thoughts regarding that?
arrest them. Now, I would have given them a deadline, and I would have had my police lined up at the barrier and said, okay, this is the deadline. You've got till 10 a.m. to get your butts out of here, or we'll get them out for you. And I would have booted them all out and arrested them all. And we've got a federal penitentiary on McNeil Island. They could have all had a good time just sitting on that island for a while until they could have gotten into justice system. But no, I would have lined my people up at the barrier, gotten the National Guard to help me, and then as soon as they weren't out by 10, and this is what they did during the Seattle riots. They gave them way too many chances, and
Hmm.
that just emboldened them. They destroyed the Nordstrom's flagship store that they just spent millions in
Wow.
renovating, and people's jobs. And Nordstrom's not going back.
Yeah.
They're telling the city of Seattle they have to pay for all the damages or forget it. And there's two big department stores. There's another one in Seattle, and they're saying we're not going back. You owe us a bunch of money because it was your job to protect, and you just let the. I'm watching this on the news, thinking, where are the police? And these people are
Why
just
is
going in and throwing stuff out.
why is Carmen Best supportive of Black Lives Matter?
That I don't get. That blows me away because Black Lives Matter is a Marxist socialist group, and their main goal is to destroy our system of government. And we have the best system of government, the best country in the whole world. And it's only the socialist Marxists that are in our government now, in Congress and the Senate, that are wreaking havoc. All these people are treasonous. They should all be put up on charges for treason, and that goes for Bolton too, with
There you
his
go.
stupid book. He was the national security advisor, and how can he publish a book where he reveals national secrets? That is treason. My dad was in the military. I worked for the Boeing Company for 32 years on military projects. I had a top secret clearance. You do not reveal national secrets. It's called treason, and that law is still on the books, and I'd like to see a few people arrested for that.
Gotta ask you here because a lot of people look at Jeff Bezos and Microsoft,
Yeah,
Amazon, Microsoft, Starbucks, and
yeah.
they, they're wondering why are these guys quiet? Are they funding the zone? Are they supporting the zone in Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, they're supporting it. Starbucks is supporting it. Anytime they support and not say something, and then they pander to them with their ads. Nobody should be doing Black Lives Matter ads. Really,
Yes.
everybody knows Black lives are important, white lives are important, everybody's important. But the thing is, Black Lives Matter. You got to look at what it's really about, and to pander to them with your business, it just undermines our country even more. And I'm ashamed of them. And for
Yeah.
them to say that they don't want to, they call hate speech anything they don't agree with.
Because
And so maybe we got to get away from it. People don't read hate speech that's really, truly hate speech unless they're already there. And just taking it off the internet's not going to stop them. They'll find it anyway. But to cut people down and to say you can't, all your posts are all being obliterated because we've deemed it to be hate speech just because we disagree with it. I'm sorry, we do have freedom of speech in this country, and they're trying to take freedom of speech away from people they don't agree with, mainly conservative voices. That's who they're after. And they're
yes,
after churches. They don't like freedom of religion.
Chairwoman, you have a very powerful voice and it needs to be heard throughout America. But what would happen if Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos made a phone call to the mayor of the city of Seattle and said, "You got 24 hours, or we're leaving"?
She'd jump. She would jump and she'd make it happen. She'd have those people out of there in a heartbeat. Yep.
So
So
do
it
you?
seems like
Do,
Amazon, they didn't like how they were being treated. They moved a bunch of their new business and their new office space over to Bellevue, to the east
Mhm.
side, where they don't have a socialist city council.
So Jeff Bezos is on the sly supporting,
Yeah.
but moving his business out of Seattle.
Yep. Yep. Because
Oh,
he couldn't stand those people with their little, you know, head tax and you owe us. And hey, Jeff Bezos, whether I like him or not, he worked hard for what he has.
yes.
And for somebody to say you owe us, no,
But
nobody owes anybody.
it seems hypocritical that in one tongue you say I support Black Lives Matter, and then
Yeah.
in the other tongue you're moving your business out of the city so that you
Right.
don't have to deal with the negativity that comes with supporting Black Lives Matter. So literally you
Exactly.
leave the weakest people behind to suffer for what you taken advantage of.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's not lost on those of us in Bellevue. Oh yeah.
Wow. Now, in final here, if Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States, picked up the phone tomorrow morning and said, "Chairwoman Cole, uh, didn't get a chance to talk with you. We know that you're going through a great deal, We want to support you in any way possible. What is the best way that I, as President of the United States, could support Chair Cole in Kings County?
Whew. I'd love to see him come to Washington State and prove that we're important to him, because we know we are, but to prove it. And I'd love to see him do that. The other thing I'd love to see him do is what he did in the White House. Tim Scott was there. I love Tim Scott. He's a real man of courage. And the president spent 45 minutes listening to the families, the black families, whose relatives had been shot by police, violent, too much force by police, whatever you want to call it. And he listened to these families for 45 minutes and didn't say a word. Didn't say a word, just let them cry on his shoulder, say what they had to say. And then when that 45 minutes was over, he looked over at Bill Barr, our Attorney General, and he said, fix it. And I think this is where you had the Police Reform Act that came out of part of that conversation.
Yes.
Yet the president really, truly cares. And I would love to see him sit down with some of our community leaders and listen to what they're saying, because the Seattle Police Force has been under the Department of Justice guidelines and interrogation and investigation for a long, long time. We have more rules and regulations and guidelines for not abusing force in this city than just about any city in the country. And so if there's any police force that's been taught how to de-escalate, it's this one.
Yeah.
Yet we've got a lot of community groups that work together too. I'd like to see the president have a session where he to those communities and to our police, not to the politicians, but to the real people, and not to the people in the government bureaucracy who are working with the homeless, but the real people working with the homeless, the charities that are working with them on a day-to-day basis, and listen to what they have to say. Those are the people who are making a real difference.
Cynthia Cole, it is an extreme honor to talk with you tonight. So many Americans have not heard this side from Seattle. They're unaware of what Bill Gates at Microsoft and Jeff Bezos at Amazon and what Boeing are doing on the sly. And quite frankly, there is a sense that there is disdain for the Marxists that are there in Seattle by some. How can Republicans, no matter where they are in the country, how can they support you? How can people encourage you? And how can they encourage your candidates who will be running in the fall?
Well, we need money to get the word out. It's always about the money, and getting your advertising out there. And we have a lot of plans. We've got a lot of strategies, yet we've got some great candidates. All they have to do is call our office and say, how can I help? And we will plug them into the candidate that's closest to them. We've got so many good candidates. We don't have a lack of things for them to do. Not a problem.
Oh yeah. Starting with Chaz. There you go. Chair of King County Republican Party, Cynthia Cole. What a blessing it was to talk with you this evening. It won't be the last time this summer. And my hopes are that the president heard your very cry and will assemble individuals to go to Washington to do something about Chaz and CHOP, because quite frankly, what happens in Seattle has begun to spread everywhere, including Washington, D.C.
Yep.
God bless you, and thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you giving me a chance to speak up.
No problem. Ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful opportunity to talk with the chairwoman, Cynthia Cole of King County Republican Party. You can go to at KCGOP on Twitter and find her, or you can just go directly to their website. I'm going to put that in the chat room. There you go. To talk about this. KCGOP.org, kcgop.org. Go in there, even if it's just an encouragement. Thank you for coming on the air and talking tonight, because a lot of Americans did not believe that there was a Republican voice in Seattle. There is one, and actually there's a multitude that have been silenced. We won't silence them, ladies and gentlemen. That's the kind of network we run. TECN TV, we are not a democracy. We are a republic, not part of the mob, part of the rule of law. And ladies and gentlemen, we are the best at urban conservative news, talk, and movies. You can have your family and friends watch us on the exceptionalconservativeshow.com, TECN TV. We will be back with more of the best right after these messages.